Good day everyone, we are the Group 5 and today we will discuss about earthquakes and volcanoes, tropical cyclones, flooding and drought, the impacts of natural hazards and managing the impacts of natural hazards.
We experienced, we felt, and saw how terrifying the earthquake is. In this video, we will tackle about more the definition of earthquakes and how it occurs. So, what is an earthquake? According to Lisa Wald, an earthquake is what happens when two blocks of the earth suddenly slip past one another. The surface where they slip is called the fault or fault plane. The location below the Earth's surface where the earthquake starts is called the hypocenter, and the location directly above it on the surface of the Earth is called epicenter. In this picture, we can clearly say the hypocenter is located below the Earth's surface, and the epicenter is directly located above the Earth's surface. Sometimes, an earthquake has foreshocks. Foreshocks are smaller earthquakes that happen in the same place as the larger earthquake that follows. Scientists can tell that an earthquake is a foreshock until the larger earthquake happens. There are two types of foreshocks. First is the main shock. It is the largest and the main of the earthquake. Second is the aftershock. These are the smaller earthquakes that occurs afterwards in the same place as the main shock. Depending on the size of the main shock, aftershocks can continue for weeks, months, and even years after the main shock. What causes earthquake and where do they happen? The tectonic plates divides the Earth's crust into distinct plates that are slowly moving. Earthquakes are concentrated along these plate boundaries. The edges of the plates are called the plate boundaries. These plate boundaries are made up of many faults, and most of the earthquakes around the world occur on these faults. Thus, since the edges of the plates are rough, they get stuck while the rest of the plates keeps moving. And finally, when the plates has moved far enough, the edges unstick on one of the faults and there is an earthquake. Why does the earthquake shake when there is an earthquake? The edges of the faults are stuck together and the rest of the block is moving. The energy that would normally cause the block to slide past one another is being stored up. When the force of the moving blocks finally overcomes the friction of the jagged edges of the faults and it unsticks, all that stored up energy is released. The energy radiates outward from the fault in all directions in the form of seismic waves like ripples in a pond. The seismic waves shake the earth as they move through it, and when the waves reach the earth's surface, they shake the ground and anything on it, like our house and us. How an earthquake recorded? Earthquakes are recorded by the instrument called seismographs. The recording they make is called a seismogram. The seismograph has a base that sits firmly in the ground and a heavy weight that hangs free. When an earthquake causes the ground to shake, the base of the seismograph shakes too, but the hanging weight does not. Instead, the spring or the string that is hanging from absorbs all the movement. The difference in position between the shaking part of the seismogram and the motionless part is what is recorded. How do scientists measure the size of an earthquake? The size of an earthquake depends on the size of the fault and the amount of slip on the fault. But that is not something scientists can simply measure with a measuring tape, since faults are many kilometers deep beneath the surface. Using the seismogram recordings made on the seismograph, the scientists can determine how large the earthquake. A short wiggly line that does not wiggle very much means a small earthquake, and a long wiggly lines that wiggles a lot means a large earthquake. The length of the wiggle depends on the size of the faults, and the size of the wiggle depends on the amount of slip. The size of the earthquake is called magnitude. There is one magnitude for each earthquake. Scientists also talk about the intensity of shaking from an earthquake, and this varies depending on where you are during an earthquake.
Volcanoes.
A volcano is a rupture in the crust of planetary mass object, such as Earth, that allows hot lava, volcanic ash and gases to escape from the magma chamber below the surface. On Earth, volcanoes are most often found where tectonic plates are diverging or converging, and most are found underwater. Pacific Ring of Fire is a string of volcanoes and sites of seismic activity, or earthquakes around the edge of the Pacific Ocean. Deep ocean trenches and high mountain ranges are also part of the Ring of Fire. The Ring of Fire is a result of plate tectonics. Tectonic plates are huge slabs of the Earth crust, which fit together like pieces of a puzzle. The plates are not fixed but are constantly moving atop a layer of solid and molten rock called the mantle. Sometimes these plates collide, move apart, or slide next to each other. Volcanic can impact climate change. During major explosive eruption, huge amounts of volcanic gas, aerosol droplets, and ash are injected into the stratosphere. Injected ash falls rapidly from the stratosphere. Most of it is removed within several days to weeks and has little impact on climate change. But volcanic gases like sulfur dioxide can cause global cooling, while volcanic carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, has the potential to promote global warming. Major health threats from volcanic eruption. Health concerns after a volcanic eruptions include infectious disease, respiratory illness, burns, injuries from falls, and vehicle accidents related to slippery, hazy conditions caused by ash. A volcanic is an impressive sight. When they are dormant, they loom large over everything on the landscape. When they are active, they are a destructive force of nature that is without equal, raining fire and ash down on everything in the sight. And during the long periods, when they are not erupting, they can also rather beneficial to the surrounding environment.
Flooding and drought.
Drought. A drought is a period of drier than normal conditions that results in water-related problems. The amount of precipitation at a particular location varies from year to year, but over a period of years, the average amount is fairly constant. Really hot temperatures can make a drought worse by evaporating moisture from the soil, but droughts don't just happen in hot and dry places. What causes drought? In the deserts of the southwest, the average precipitation is less than 3 inches per year. In contrast, the average precipitation in the northwest is more than 150 inches per year. When little or no rain falls, soils can dry out and plants can die. When rainfall is less than normal for a period of weeks to years, stream flows decline. Water levels in lakes and reservoirs falls, and the depth to water in wells increases. If dry weather persists and water supply problems develop, the dry period can become a drought. Flooding. Flood is a term used to denote an enormous amount of water. When there is an outflow of water in a place, it is said to be flooded. The situation caused when the water becomes uncontrollable is said to be flooded. The flood may take different forms, such as in the form of heavy rainfall when there is a breaking of the dam. Furthermore, the melting of snow also leads to flooding. Floods lead to an overfull and huge spread of water but are not considered safe for the purpose of drinking. These floods bring with them a number of diseases such as typhoid, cholera, and many others. Causes of floods. Flood is usually a result of natural causes. It may also be caused by man-made factors. It causes huge damage to life and property. There are many different causes leading to flooding. Some prominent among them include massive rainfall. Drainage systems and effective infrastructure design aid during heavy rains. They help the drainage of excess water into reservoir in an easy way. But in cases of heavy rainfall, the system stops working. Thus flood is caused. Overflowing of the rivers. The people living along the river always have a risk of life from the overflowing of the rivers. To prevent such a situation, a string of dams are built. However, if these dams are not managed properly, they may cause flooding and huge damage. Collapse dams. In the event of huge rainfall, the dams built begin to collapse, thus causing the flood situation to become even critical for the people living around. Snow melt. At the time of the high melting of snow due to heavy precipitation and other factors, the situation of flooding arises. Adopting sustainable measures for heavy precipitation can help in dealing with the flooding situation. Deforestation. The cutting of trees in a reckless manner is deforestation is also a major cause of man-made flooding. Trees prevent soil erosion and also the loss of crops. The vegetation is also enriched as a result of more and more trees. This also blocks the massive flow of rain, thus preventing flooding. Climate change. The climate changes caused due to human practices also add to the risk of flooding. Human beings cut trees in large number, thus affecting the process of photosynthesis. Thus increased level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere cause changes in climate posing threats of natural disasters like floods. Emission of greenhouse gases. The burning of fossil fuels, the industrial influences, the pollution, all is depleting the level of the ozone layer and increasing the level of greenhouse gases, becoming a major cause of man-made flooding.
What is tropical cyclone?
Tropical cyclone is a rapidly rotating storm system characterized by a low pressure center, strong winds, and a spiral arrangement of thunderstorms that produce heavy rain. Depending on its location and strength, tropical cyclone is referred to by names such as hurricane, typhoon, tropical storm, cyclonic storm, tropical depression, and simply cyclone. Tropical cyclones are familiar to most people because they occur in tropical oceans. Cyclones and tornadoes are actually tropical cyclones, but they have different names that indicate where the storm is occurring. Tropical cyclones only form in warm ocean waters near the equator. A hurricane forms when warm, humid air rises above the surface of the ocean. As the air rises above and above the ocean surface, it creates an area of low pressure. This causes air to move from areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure, causing the air to heat up and rise. How tropical cyclone formed? Tropical cyclones form only near the equator in warm ocean waters. A cyclone is formed when warm, moist air near the ocean surface rises upward. When air rises away from the ocean surface, it generates a low pressure zone beneath it. It causes air from higher pressure places to travel towards the low pressure area, warming the air and causing it to climb above. Structure of a tropical cyclone. Tropical cyclone divided into three parts: the eye wall, and the spiral rain band. The eye of the storm is the center. It's a relatively calm space. When the eye passes over an area, winds slow down and everything feels like it has cleared up. But this is the proverbial calm before the storm. as the part that comes after the eye usually inflicts the most damage. The eye wall. This is where the most effective part of a cyclone rests. The eye wall houses extremely high wind speeds, causing damage to both lives and property. It is a ring of thunderstorms, and changes in the eye on the eye wall affects the storm's intensity. Spiral rain bands. There are the outer parts of a cyclone where sudden bursts of rain happen. There can also be gaps between rain bands where no rain or wind occurs.
What are the causes and effects of cyclones? Tropical cyclones cause heavy rainfall and landslides. They cause serious damage to towns and villages. In addition, they destroy coastal companies such as shipyards and oil wells. When these storms blow in the distance, they cause great damage to human settlements. They destroy a lot of crops and a lot of forest. They destroy the entire civilian life, especially when they hit the power and telephone lines. These cyclones often cause tornadoes, which can lead to flooding. They cause great damage not only to property but also to the lives of the people. Civil institutions are being demolished. Effects of tropical cyclone. Tropical cyclones constitute one of the most destructive natural disasters that affects many countries around the globe and exact tremendous annual losses in lives and property. Its impact is greatest over the coastal areas, which bear the brunt of the strong surface winds, squalls, induced tornadoes, and flooding from heavy rains, rather than strong winds that cause the greatest loss in lives and destruction to property in coastal areas.
The impacts of natural hazards. Natural hazards or disasters can have a life-altering impact on the individuals and families, enough to survive them. But the effects of natural hazards can be felt at the community, city, and state level, or many times can impact an entire country. Natural hazards can have huge environmental impacts as well, even when communities are relatively unaffected. How well the impact of a hazard event is absorbed has much to do with the intensity of impact and the level of preparedness and resilience of the subject impacted. At the individual level, the impact can often be felt physically, mentally, and emotionally. Natural hazards cause destructions of property, loss of financial resources, and personal injury or illness.
Managing the impacts of natural hazards. What is natural hazard? Natural hazards are severe and extreme weather and climate events, although they occur in all parts of the world. Some regions are more vulnerable to certain hazards than others. Natural hazards become disasters when people's lives and livelihoods are destroyed. Natural hazards occur across different time and area scales, and each is in some way unique. Natural hazards include, for instance, droughts, floods, earthquakes, tropical cyclone, and many more. So, in order to manage the impact of natural hazard, we need to consider the following. First, risk prevention, which focuses on how a risk analysis shows cities and business what their biggest threats are. It also highlights the importance of implementing prevention measures to reduce risk as much as possible. Second, addressing residual risk. It illustrates how risk transfer solutions can help individuals and communities deal with the hazard that they are still exposed to after prevention measures have already been taken. Third, preparing, which stresses the importance of creating contingency plans before a hazard strikes. 4. Responding. It then deals with the first actions that should be taken after a natural hazard hits a community. And last, recovering. It goes over what measures need to be taken to ensure that the government, businesses, and individuals are better prepared for next time.